I loved spending time in thrift stores. So much so that it's basically what I did each weekend that I had off of work. Normally, I would bring my roommate along. We'll call her Megan. This time, Megan had to work at the coffee shop while I spent the weekend traveling from thrift shop to thrift shop looking for anything and everything that caught my eye. Mid afternoon on Saturday, I was coming up empty handed. I hadn't found much of interest, which is saying a lot for me, as I always walk away with some trinket or quote unquote clutter, as Megan called it. I pulled up my phone to check and see if there were any shops I had missed, and I noticed that there was one that I didn't recognize. It had only 2 reviews and appeared to have been opened fairly recently. It was called In the Attic. I thought that was a fitting name. I tapped on the directions and put my phone on the mount. I was pretty excited to explore a new shop. As soon as I pulled in, I noticed that the small parking lot was empty. I thought this was a bit odd for a Saturday afternoon, but the shop does seem to be new, so maybe locals haven't found out about it yet. I grew more excited thinking about how most of the goods hadn't been skimmed through by those early morning thrift shoppers. As I walk in, a bell chimes on the door, but otherwise the shop is completely quiet. I look around for a front desk, but the store looks void of people. I continue on thinking the workers may be in the back room. I'm sure they'll see me on the security cameras and come out at some point. I begin browsing and start to notice that a lot of the items are in excellent condition and come with a surprisingly low price tag. They must be new, I thought as I picked up an immaculate 1950 circle skirt that was priced at only $5. This is coming home with me, I say quietly. Great choice, I hear from behind me. I jump and spin around to see an older man standing just a few feet away. Oh, hi, I said. I love your shop. Is it new? He smiles, revealing a single yellow tooth peeking out between coffee-stained lips. New to this town, but In the Attic has been around for a long, long time, before you were born, he exclaims and begins chuckling, sending himself into a fit of coughs. I feign a smile and tell him I'm going to take a look around. He turns away while waving his hand in the air, still coughing violently. I move on to a set of bookshelves where I see a porcelain doll, unlike any other I've seen before. You could tell they were all dated, but they were all perfect. I scanned each shelf, not sure why I was lingering. I had no need for a doll, but I couldn't help my curiosity. They were all so beautiful. My eyes landed on a very small doll with black hair and blue eyes. She seemed so out of place, wearing a red dress, red shoes, and a red bow, while all of the others wore floral prints. I turned and continued browsing. After about 20 minutes, I hear my stomach growling. Time for some lunch, I think, and get ready to go to checkout. I pause and turn back to the bookshelves. I scoop up the doll in red and carry her gingerly over to the old man. He smiles up at me again. Ah, you found a friend, I see. Yeah, she's so unique, why not, I say. He punches my total into a calculator and begins bagging everything. He extends his arm and pauses halfway across the counter. She really likes you, he said. I laughed nervously. Thanks. I take the bag and walk quickly out of the shop. Later that day, Megan comes home and I begin excitedly telling her about the new shop and bragging about all of my finds. She seems immediately put off by the doll. Why is it dressed like that? She says. I don't know, but it's cute, right? She purses her lips and says, sure. After dinner and a movie, we head to bed. I fall asleep rather quickly, around 12 p.m., but wake up abruptly just a few hours later. I look around my room trying to figure out what caused me to wake up, when I begin to hear Megan quietly calling my name from her room. I immediately get up to go check on her, assuming she stumbled upon a bug on her way to get water or something of the sort. As I walk to her room, I see that she's still laying in bed. I walk a bit closer and can hear a tiny snore. I think. Maybe she's talking in her sleep. And I retreat back to my room. The next morning I tell Megan about it, and she responds with a dream she had about hiding under the bed from something in the house. In the dream, she said she was whispering my name to notify me of whatever was after her in her dream. I thought it was rather creepy, but we move on with our day and don't think much of it. After work, I come home and begin to tidy up. I was having a hard time keeping my energy levels up after work, so I brewed myself a cup of tea and sipped on it as I tended to my chores. As I move into the laundry room to put clothes in the wash, I hear something shatter in the living room. I run into the room and see that the mug that I had placed on the coffee table had fallen off. "What a mess!" I exclaim and go about cleaning up. As I'm sweeping up the broken pieces, I pause and look at the ring that was made on the coaster. It was in the center of the table. How in the world did the mug just fall off? I shake it off, assuming that I had placed it too close to the edge at some point. Maybe I'm more tired than I realize. Later that night, I wrapped myself up in my blanket, excited to finally be in bed. Per usual, I fall asleep immediately, only to be awakened a few hours later. At this point, I'm annoyed and tired. I sit straight up trying to figure out what the disturbance was this time, and I freeze. I can hear Megan again, but this time she's sobbing. I get up and run into her room, only to see her laying there, snoring again. I check around the house to make sure the TV's off and the windows are closed. Maybe it was just a dream, I thought, and went back to bed. The next morning, Megan comes into the kitchen looking particularly fatigued. I ask if she's okay, and she responds with, "Another dream." "Well, what happened this time?" I asked. She stares down at her hands and suddenly looks back up. "It's that doll," she says. I stare back confused. "Ever since you brought it here, I have been having awful, horrifying nightmares." I look at her stunned. Alright, if it's bothering you that much, I can return it," I respond, calmly trying to soothe her. "Today," she says, and storms out of the kitchen. I grab the doll from the shelf in the living room and pull out my phone to look for the thrift shop. I type in the attic into the search bar, but nothing comes up. So I go to Maps, and I check my history, but I can't find it there either. I decide I'm just going to head back in the direction of the shop, confident that I can find it once I'm on that side of town. I walk past Megan's room and tell her I'm headed to the shop. She runs after me, exclaiming, "I'm coming with you. I want to see that thing being returned." Alright, I said. "It should be an adventure since that shop isn't appearing on the map. You can help me navigate." We hop in the car and head in the direction of the shop. On the way there, Megan begins to detail her nightmares, describing how it always felt like she was awake and being watched in our apartment. She said that in each nightmare, she was searching frantically for ways to get out, but each time she would get to the door, a crippling pain would shoot down her spine and she would fall to the floor, unable to move. I tried to make her feel better by explaining that we're almost at the shop and the doll will be gone. She was going to give me the creeps. Megan was normally so logical and fairly easygoing. Finally, I pull into the parking lot that I assume the shop is in. Everything looks the same, except for the signage. It's missing, and the store looks vacant. Maybe they're closed, I thought. I'm interrupted by Megan, who's calling my name. I turn around to see that she's standing on the other side of the road with her back facing me. I call out to her, but she doesn't move. Then I hear her sobbing. I scream at her, "Megan, what are you doing? What's wrong?" She seems to be inching closer to the embankment, and before I can react, she disappears. The cops searched everywhere. They couldn't find her. No one could. They looked at me as if I was suffering tremendously from grief or simply losing my mind when I kept going on about the thrift shop and the haunted doll. I've searched business records, social media, posted just about everywhere I can think of, but no one's ever heard of In the Attic. To this day, I'm so confused. I feel like I might actually be losing it. The only reminder that it was all real is when I wake up to Megan sobbing in the next room each night.